Hello friend, and welcome to another episode of Van Life Living in the Ark. I'll tell you, I had a real treat, though I had the video already on the tripod, so I didn't get it. But because I'm out in the thickets today, I decided to go for a hike in the thickets, and because the deer trails sometimes leave areas that you can get through, and I was set up here in this little spot in the middle of all the thickets that was an opening where I could set up the camera and all. And the deer got spooked probably by another hiker somewhere else in the preserve, and they come trucking this way, and then they stopped and were just on the other side of this set of thickets here on another deer trail, so I got to enjoy seeing them. Maybe I'll get a photo of them and put them at the end here if I run into them again. Because I try to leave you some video, there's some photos at the end of pretty views, right? But tell you the truth, it's I never remember what hunting season is because I don't hunt, right? So I never remember whether it's hunting season or not. But it's Valentine's Day was yesterday, so I think I'm safe out here in the thickets. But I did hang up my chair cover and my tripod cover because they're blue. And then I'm in a blue chair, so hopefully somebody won't mistake my leather hat and my white hair for a deer, right? You just never know, friend. I come out here for peace and quiet. In fact, I'm going to tell you, I had an experience coming out here today, and usually the Holy Spirit puts things to me so that I can kind of appreciate things, right? When I showed up at the preserve and park today, I seen a woman and her two kids. They were probably early teens, maybe mid-teens. And they went over to look at the guide. And when they were looking at the map that's posted, I just went over and said, hey, you know, there's this bamboo forest that the kids will probably really like because it's kind of dark in there and it's just cool. And they were like, oh, great, thanks. And then they were heading that way. And then they turned around and headed the way that I came, right? Now, I think the reason that was is all of a sudden she got nervous thinking I might be trying to send them to a dark forest, right? But then when they came this way, I started coming this way, and then so they stopped and looked at the creek, and I told them where there was a nice waterfall over here, but she'll probably go back the other way. Now, I can't blame her, friend, because here in America anymore, nothing's safe. The woods aren't even safe anymore, friend. I mean, just people are, you know, it just is what it is. And I'm not making a judgment. And friend, I wear this hat, right? And I have this beard. And I dress kind of more hobo-ish. Because God doesn't care what I look like, friend. He cares about relationship, right? I imagine Jesus looked pretty hobo-ish if he was traveling around, because I'll tell you, friend, anybody that's traveling dirt roads like he would have out there in that wilderness with them apostles and was, you know, sleeping wherever, I can tell you, I don't care if he's wearing white or not, it wasn't very white. You can imagine it was a little dirty, right? So people get this whole thing thought up. But that's what I really miss about being down in Floyd County. When I was down there, a lot of them folks are like me. And I didn't used to be like me, friend. I used to be a trainer, and I used to have to do things and impress people. And, you know, I always kept this real short shave, and I didn't grow in my sides. But I had to look the part because I worked for, you know, a corporation, and they expected me to be a trainer that looked like I was educated, even if I wasn't. Because I'm a high school dropout, friend. I mean, I can get certifications in anything I want. The question is, what do I want? Well, the only thing I really want to know is this Jesus and things he taught me about that. And those certifications were real helpful because when I was getting those and I was doing that, I was helping people, and then I learned to help people, right? So working in the mental health system was a beautiful thing for me, and it's where my father taught me how to receive and keep the kingdom. And it doesn't mean I did it perfect, friend, but because of that, now I have the kingdom. And now I'm out in the woods more than not, talking to you on this camera, and nobody listens, friend. And I don't blame you. But that's what I miss about Floyd County, see, because down there, a lot of people look like me, and people don't judge each other. And there's hippies that live down there too, and they don't judge you. And even the people that dress nice, just everybody. It's because it's a place where it's country. People aren't afraid of each other as much, because I'm sure there's crime from time to time, friend, but I'll tell you that when you get into these cities, man, there's just nothing. I used to sell security systems and cable in cities, in different cities, Las Vegas and Wilmington and all kind of places. And I'll tell you, friends, it wasn't safe places to be. But that's where the best money is, to be quite honest with you, where it's not necessarily safe. So I was in a position where if I was going to make money, I had to be where I had to be, right? But it doesn't matter, because I'm going to live until the minute I die, right? Just like you. That nobody knows what hour that's going to be. The only thing we can do is follow this Jesus and do what he asks, and that is to give to another what it is they seek for themselves. And that's why I'm always turning this camera on. I'm going to tell you, sometimes my Father doesn't give me things until I give it to you. Sometimes when I turn on the video and I start talking to you, he'll tell me something that I didn't even know myself. But he'll be talking to you through me, meaning that it'll come to my mind, all of a sudden I'll understand it, and then I'll speak it to you, right? So I love turning the camera on, because I never know when that might happen. Now, it hasn't happened in a while, friend. And sometimes I get things like a download. It's kind of weird and hard to explain. It's just all of a sudden I will be thinking of God, and all of a sudden I'll know something. And it almost comes like a rapid amount of information about something. It's very weird. I don't know how to explain it. But either way, and sometimes he leads me to go and see things. You know, he sent me to the Statue of Liberty once when I was in Canada, and I told him I wasn't flying back on a plane. I was taking a train, and everybody was like, "What do you mean you're not flying back?" Turns out my father wanted me to go to the Statue of Liberty so I could learn some real history instead of the lies they teach us in school. Because a lot of things they're teaching us in school, friend, just aren't true anymore. It's kind of like they talk about this evolution, right, and Darwin's theory. Do you know that Darwin said, because somebody quoted it right out of a book while I was watching some documentaries, did you know Darwin stated that his theory could be proven wrong, and we already proved it wrong like years ago? Did you know that? Did you know our school is teaching it like it's real, when his theory has already been blown out of the water? And that when a group of scientists came together from all these different avenues, they could not rule out intelligent design, because once they realized how a cell is constructed, it is so complicated, and it has information called DNA. Friend, you ought to check some of this stuff out, because if you were an atheist beforehand, you probably won't be afterwards. One little cell is like a factory, and each little part has its role, and it does all these things. And there's a thing in there, these bacteria that have flagellum. It's like a boat motor, and it literally defies Darwin's theory. And so they said that proved it. And I'm not really good at explaining those things, friend. I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, but I can listen to other people and understand what they're saying. I'm just not necessarily good at repeating it. Just like I tell you what Jesus said, but you don't have to believe what I say about what Jesus said. You can go read what he said for yourself, and you'll see that what I'm saying is true. Because he wasn't telling you how to get the kingdom there, he was telling you how to get it here. But because when you find it here, you'll know you're going to have it there, then you know you're going to get the kingdom, and then you don't have to worry about these things. But he also told you that that was only true for those that chose his kingdom here. So he said the kingdom won't be said to be here or there, but the kingdom of God would be within you. Well, friend, as a man that came from hell, I can tell you hell's in you too. Because if the kingdom's in here, then where else would hell be? Right here. And that's where I was at, friend. Because of things that happened to me, I was full of hate and judgment, and I was angry at the world and everybody in it. And, well, my father had to loose my chains and set me free, but it wasn't an easy task, and it took a lot more than one person to help me get there. Right? He sent me a lot of messengers over the years, and I slowly got it, because I wasn't following these churches. They didn't make any sense to me, friend. Not a bit. Everybody's talking with a half a tongue. I go to one church and they're talking with this half of the tongue. I go to the other church, they're talking with this half of the tongue. Jesus spoke with the whole tongue. Go read Jesus. Go watch Jesus. Go listen to Jesus, because you can listen to him on podcast. They literally have the Gospels that you can find them on Amazon. I think they're actually through Freevee or something or other, but you can get them on through Amazon. They also sell the DVDs on Amazon. I have the DVDs, but they're in my Ark, and I'm not at my Ark at the moment. Plus, the DVD player in my computer broke, and I don't even own a television. So that ended that. But still, I listen to them. Now I don't even have Amazon or Netflix or any of those prescriptions anymore, because that costs money and I don't have any. So I don't even listen to them anymore, but I've read them over and over, and I still read what Jesus said. But I'll tell you, friend, it's all up here now so much. And I'm not a smart man. And I can't tell you where he said what he said. I can just tell you he said it because I've read it and listened to it over and over. I used to turn the Gospels on and go to sleep. So for 3 hours of my sleep, I was listening to the Gospel of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, friend. So over and over again, I was listening to what Jesus said, because I was a person that had such bad programming in my mind that I needed my Father to really work to help me get past all this stuff. But it's a free will choice, and I was willing to do whatever it is he showed me to do, and he showed me to do a lot of things. Like come out here in the woods and spend a lot of time with him, right? I'm out here seeking the kingdom in lonely places, just like Jesus said. And I get to enjoy some deer. Sometimes I get to enjoy people. Not everybody's as kind of as paranoid as that woman was, right? But she's got her kids with her, and she has to be protective of them. I don't blame her. But a lot of times I have great conversation out here with a stranger in the woods as we're passing one another. They'll have their dog. I love to talk to people about their dogs and pet their dogs because I just love animals. But that's beside the point, you know. So I'm just telling you that the kingdom is here to be had. And I tell you a lot of times, you know, because just like Jesus said, I had to weigh out the price of building this tower that I'm building, because it's not free. You might think that it looks like I'm doing nothing and I'm lazy, but that's not the case, friend. And there is a price for what I do. For one thing is, everybody judges me for it because nobody really thinks I'm right. Because they all think I'm supposed to be out there being a slave to corporations, and they think that I ought to pay the debt that I have. And I would, except for the Father told me I'm not going to, because I'm going to make a stand, because my Father said that it's time for Satan to get drugged back into hell. So either this nation is going to put Satan back on its leash, or it's getting drugged back into hell. And right now you don't know that Satan actually is ruling this nation, because Satan not only owns your politicians, he also owns all the media. There's 3 corporations called BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street, and those corporations own all the other corporations, and they own the majority voting share in all of them. And I'm talking about all your oil companies, your pharmaceutical companies, all your auto companies, Coca-Cola and Pepsi. They own all the competition, friend. They mark everything up. Did you ever notice that one doesn't go up and the other one stays the same, that everything in our marketplace now kind of goes up together? If Coke goes up, Pepsi goes up with it. And they might be, I don't even know if they vary anymore one from the other, just to make you think that they're in competition. There's no competition, friend. They own the market. We're slaves. You just don't know it yet. And if you've heard me, now you know it. But the whole world's going to know it soon. Because the media won't talk about it because, well, those 3 corporations own all the media in America. So they've been telling you lies so that you wouldn't know the truth. But if you go to Yahoo Finance, or that little video I created from Yahoo Finance, and that would show you how to go to Yahoo Finance and look, then you would know. In fact, I'll attach that to this video. I'll put it right here. Okay? So, I'm not lying to you. I'm telling you the truth, and this is all biblical, and Jesus told you about this. And it's not that, see, the people that are like being Christian or abiding in the law and living in the light, they think it's all going okay because they're only around people that are getting treated okay, right? But the riders of the beast, the riders of these corporations, are stealing your lives, and you don't even know what's happening. So the church is about to wake up very soon, because he told you the brides would be asleep. So you're asleep to this fact. but soon the entire nation's going to wake up. And when they do, if you don't light your lamps, it's going to get mighty dark, mighty fast, friend, because people are going to be angry when they find out that a free nation has enslaved them and they didn't even know it. I'm not lying to you. And understand, as a Christian and an American, I will not let them do this and not let you know it's happening. Because what's going to happen is they built underground arcs, and they have every intention on bringing in this central banking system and all of that. And the only way to bring in the new system is to crash the one we have, because you won't willingly. This nation is a free nation, at least it thinks it is. So they won't willingly give up that freedom unless somebody takes the system they've got from them. So understand, they plan on crashing the system. And even if they didn't, if you would go look at the way the system operates, you would know that it's going to crash itself. So they are going to try to make a controlled crash. And you can call me a liar, but you can also go to the playlist, Clues to the Kingdom, and you will see a lot of things that I've been posting. And some of it's Christian, some of it's secular, some of it's about geology. I've got all kinds of stuff on there. I've got on there about, I don't know if I put one on there about quantum physics. Now, those of you that call this a liar, understand that you're saying you're smarter than Einstein. Quantum physics explain things. So what you need to do is go find a video that is like basic quantum physics. Not the I'm not smart, friend. I can figure out the basics, right? I can understand why it is they believe it and how they proved it to be true, but I don't understand all the theories, nor do I need to, and I don't need to understand the mathematics. The Holy Spirit led me to that so that I could see that even smart people like Einstein knew that this fact was true, and therefore he had a theory on it, even though they say his theory is wrong now. But understand, if you start understanding that and you still think you're an atheist, wow, friend, you have a lot of faith in nothing. And I mean, you have faith in nothing. Because if you look at some of this science, it'll prove to you that there's a creator. And some people will say, well, it's aliens that created us. Well, then who created the aliens? Jesus said the Father's of spirit, right? And he wants us to worship him in spirit and truth. Now, understand the word worship means to have adoration for a deity, right? Which means to adore. Adoration is to adore. So I adore my Creator. I love my Creator because he created me. And I didn't used to love my Creator because I didn't love my life. I hated my life, and therefore I hated the fact that my Creator created me, and I was quite upset about it, to be quite honest with you, friend. There was many a time I was like, what did you put me here for? This is just hell. But it turns out I had to go through that so I could appreciate the kingdom. Right or wrong, it just is what it is. And I've seen my Father in the beginning, and since I've seen him in the beginning, now I want to know him in the end. And I don't ever want to forget what I know, because I don't want to go back to being one of those errant children like I used to be. Because every time I hurt my neighbor, I then am going against my Father's will. And my Father does this because he has to, but he doesn't have to do anything, friend. He could choose to turn us all into slaves, right? Like Adam and Eve were if they didn't have the fruit, because that's what they would have been. They wouldn't have had free will. Free will is a choice, friend. Every one of us eat that fruit daily. Adam and Eve didn't eat it, friend. You eat it every day. It's called selfishness. You put you ahead of your neighbor, ahead of your wives, your children, whatever. Anything you put ahead of God, you put ahead of my Father, and therefore it becomes an idol. So no matter what you do, you put... But the problem is, the reason he doesn't want you to is because if you don't do that, you won't hang all the laws and the prophets on only 2 commandments. And your selfishness will lead you to justify hypocrisy, just like mine used to. You'll hurt people and you won't even look at it. You'll go gambling and pretend as though that there's no accountability for that, because you'll think that since everybody else is gambling, it's okay that you gamble too. But the more people that gamble, the more people that become addicted to it, and therefore the more children that suffer from addicted gamblers, right? Because their children end up not getting eat. They put up their houses. Instead of feeding their kids, they're addicted to gambling. They get thrown out on the streets. Their children have to go with them. Friend, there's accountability for all this. I don't care whether you believe me or not. Jesus told you there would be. So when you're not thinking about what you're thinking about and you say, oh, I'm not accountable, well then it allows you to justify anything. But Jesus came so that he could tell you the truth so you wouldn't justify it. So at the end of the age, when everybody screamed for justice and justice gets served, you would know that you were accountable for what you've done. So Jesus told you that. And if you're an atheist, I get that you don't believe that. But I highly recommend you go read what Jesus said. However, understand that once you know that you're accountable, anybody that accepts Christ and says that they know him and accepts him in order to receive his kingdom, you do become twice accountable for not abiding in what he said. Now you can know that because Jesus told you that when you invited him into your heart, you invited my Father also. So anytime you say that you're a Christian and then you go out and do things that are of selfishness, meaning of Satan, meaning things to hurt other people and act like it doesn't matter, you do that as a representation of not only the firstborn son, but also my Father. Because he told you if you invite one in, the other one comes with him. So you're doing it in the name of God, just like this nation. And you've looked at what happened every time my father sent them messengers and they didn't listen, right? Israel paid the price. What, do you think a Christian nation's going to pay less? Did you ever think about that? If we're going to declare ourselves a Christian nation, the new wineskin, the second fruit, do you think there's not a price with all this insanity? Of course there is. I mean, come on now. If you're going to claim to be his representative, then when you act out of line, you force him into a position where he has to be like, look, this is unacceptable, and you're teaching all the rest of the world that this is okay, and it's not. And this is the nation that created and perfected a publicly traded corporation, friend. And we infected the world with it. This is all written in Revelation. He told you first we'd pour the first cup. And then after we poured the first cup, then he'd pour the second. Go look in Revelation, friend. I'm not telling you that has to be right now because he doesn't tell me when it's coming. But I'm telling you that if we don't start making new choices, that you can take it to the bank that Jesus was not a liar. If you're Christian, if you believe that Bible's true, well then you should really be concerned about living in America when it's acting like the old Israel. So, and I'm not saying if the church would turn, everybody else would start to turn with it, friend, because if you were out feeding the hungry, clothing the naked, and visiting people in prison, the people that were in prison wouldn't be going back because you would teach them love, and then they would love their neighbor, and because you taught them how to have a better life, and someone cared about them, then they'd want to care about others because they'd care about you, and they'd want to make a better world for you because you brought them a better world, right? This isn't rocket science, friend. Jesus gave you all this in parables. But he hid it from you, and you had to make a choice. It's a free will choice. Choose it or not. But if you don't make these choices, if you choose to be selfish, then you choose Satan. And because you choose Satan, you're going to pay your due. And if you said you knew Jesus and did not get to know Jesus, there's a price for that. I'm just telling you that. Go look. Go look at what Jesus said. You don't have to believe me, friend. Everybody thinks I'm a liar. Nobody believes a word I say. I don't care. Tell you the truth, friend, nobody hardly listens to my videos, and I prefer it that way because if you haven't figured it out yet, if they went viral, somebody would want to cast me from the vineyard, just like they did the firstborn. Prodigal son would go the same way, right? Then you'd call me the counterfeit Christ. But friend, his apostles were all counterfeit Christs, right? All of them gave their lives. How many people in Rome gave their lives as counterfeit Christs? They did what Jesus said. They believed they were supposed to, and they did it. Constantine changed everything, and he got you to stop dying and start killing, and Jesus told you that wasn't going to work. Jesus said, before me, the kingdom suffered violence and was taken by force, but after me it won't. He went as far as saying is that those that had already entered the kingdom and had a seat at the table were going to be thrown back out because he came. Where was he going to get thrown back out to, friend? Right here. And then they're going to have to enter rightly to get back, right? Why do I say that? How could I say that if I'm Christian? Well, how is it that Jesus could say in the Church to Philadelphia, the letter to the Church of Philadelphia, how could Jesus say that to him that overcomes, I will make a pillar in the temple of my God, and he will go out no more? No more. No more. No more means that you've been going out, friend. Go read this stuff. I'm telling you, the church has been telling you one thing, Jesus told you another. There's all kinds of hidden things in there that people aren't getting because they bought into the Pharisees instead of what Jesus said. So I'm telling you, the church is heading down the wrong path. It's been since Constantine. You're trying to make a curve back to love, right? We've been making the curve. The problem is that the darkness is spreading faster than the light. And because this nation, this Christian nation now thinks everybody should just think that everybody should have the right to their own truth, that's great, but understand my God's, which is my Father and your Father, there's a price for it. Because we're a bunch of errant children, he's going to punish us for it. And it's not that he's going to punish us forever. It's not eternity. But if you don't think he's going to make a public statement with this nation, you're just not thinking about what you're thinking about. I mean, he told you that at the end of the age that the sun would become like sackcloth and the moon like blood. Well, we are going to repent in sackcloth and ashes if we don't straighten our things out. But first, that's the second cup, right? First, he pours the first cup. The first cup, we pour. The second cup, he pours. But he only pours it because by that time it'll be so clear that what's going on we did to ourselves that those that survive, because I'm going to tell you something. The other thing is they're saying that everybody gets wiped out, meaning the end, right? You're calling Jesus a liar again, because Jesus said that if he didn't shorten those days, then no one would survive. But because he shortens those days, those that are elected to survive will. Now, I don't know who's elected to survive, but he told you that humanity was going to survive it. He didn't say it was a complete wipeout. He said that those that survived through it were going to wish they did, though. He told you that many would pray for death and death wouldn't come. I mean, he said all kinds of stuff, friend, and I'm sure hoping you're listening to what he said, not to what the church said. You know, because they talk about this pre-tribulation rapture, you're going to get out of here without a hair on your head harmed. Jesus told you that you were going to have to wake up and light your lamps, and that a lot of his brides were going to run out of oil before they ever got to the wedding. Does that sound like that you get out of here beforehand? I don't know what all these other people said, Paul and Peter. Christ is who I follow. Maybe you only have to stay a short time. Maybe I only have to stay a short time, but I'm assuming that I need to have oil in my lamp. And the only way for me to get oil is to give oil, because that's how you increase love and forgiveness. That's how you increase the kingdom. So I have to give the truth if I want more of the truth. And the more I give you, the more my Father gives me. But if I refuse to do it, then he'll take the truth from me and cast me back into the darkness from which I came. And friend, I just don't want to go back into the darkness from which I came. That might be okay for you, but it is not okay for me. I am tired of suffering from selfishness. And it doesn't mean I'm going to be perfect. Jesus never was talking about perfection. He came and died so that you may live. He gave you something far greater than what people are talking about. But there is a price, and he told you that those that drink the old wine are going to try to enter through the wide path, which is the path that leads to destruction. The churches keep talking about Old Testament. I'm always hearing them preaching everything but what Jesus said. Go read what Jesus said. Go buy a red letter edition of the Bible and read what Jesus said in red, and you will find the kingdom. And then when you find it, because you dig it up, you'll sell everything you have and buy the field and then rebury the treasure, or you'll go do the pearl. Jesus said the kingdom is like. Stop following other people. The kingdom is in the Christ. Go read. Go see the truths that he was talking about. Because he said, if you do not forgive, you will not be forgiven. You're not leaving here with anything except the thought of who you are. And the thought of who you are is going to either be compatible with the kingdom of God that's coming in the new age, or it's not. So if you're not the spirit of love, the spirit of forgiveness, the spirit of joy, then you're not going to fit in that kingdom, so he can't allow you in it. I'm not telling you hell's for eternity, but you are going to get cast into the fire and you're going to pay your due. Then you're going to get the opportunity to choose again at some point. And if you don't make the right choice that time, well, then you'll get cast back into the fire. I can't tell you what I know, because what I know is far greater than what the world has. And Jesus told you that you'd find a greater truth, but you had to get it from him. And you won't believe it from me, but you could believe it from him. Because the Holy Spirit, the Spirit of truth, will come to you and give you greater truths, and some of it's right there in Jesus' message. He told you that he would utter secrets that have been hidden since the foundation of the world, and he was not lying. So I really encourage you to go get to know Christ, not the church. Go read the words of the Christ. All right, friend, well, I'm talking about all this because I love you. I want you to make the right choice. And what's happening is, because we don't know what they're doing in this nation, you don't know that they're setting you up. And because you don't know it, they're just getting away with it. And what I'm talking about is coming regardless. Like I told you, the Father said, we're pouring the cups. We're already pouring it. Probably even before I was born, because these corporations have been doing this stuff, if you look, going way back. If you don't believe what the corporations are doing, go look at Saving Capitalism, I think on Netflix. And then on Amazon, I think there's a movie called, what was that? Anyway, it's about greed. There's all kinds of documentaries out there about capitalism and the greed that's going on behind the scenes. They have kind of a back history about Jared Kushner, which was Trump's protege, right? Go look at what kind of landlord he was, friend. He was a slumlord. And you got all kind of witnesses on there to people that he put out. So I'm just telling you that the illusion that this Christian nation is under is just a lie. And you need to look at the truth, because otherwise they're going to catch you asleep. And you don't want to be asleep when this all happens, because you're going to need faith. You're going to need love. You're going to need to be able to have faith and therefore overcome fear. So if you're not out doing what Jesus asked, if you haven't actually read what he said and did what he asked, I really recommend you get to doing it, like now. Not out of fear, out of love. The purpose of the world is to come to know love by experience. And if you make that choice, you'll become fit for my Father's kingdom. And then because you seek it and find it, then you get to have it. And because you have it, you get it when it comes, right? That's what Jesus said. Go read. All right, friend. Well, may God bless you and yours.